You can have somebody that could be, A1,
Yeah.
not the one, A1, and also have destiny bring that together. That those things aren't mutually exclusive. They can both exist in the same universe.
Is there a one? Is there a one romantically? We often think the one, but is there one path for us in life? Is there one ideal that we need to discover? Or is it a matter of choosing from equally good options? This is going to be an interesting discussion with Matt Carnier, who's joined us once before.
Let's get personal, mate. The capital P.
Let's go to that interview with Matt now. Matt, we're talking about is there one, I guess in romantic terms, one person for us? We might take this in other directions too, more broadly speaking. But what do you think, Matt? Is there a one for everyone?
Ultimately, no, I don't think there is. I think there could be many ones.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the wrong one? Is there a wrong one?
Oh, I didn't posit this in my mind earlier when I was chewing on, the cud. I think that is much more difficult to find. So I definitely think there's incompatibilities, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the part of courting and getting to know somebody is figuring that out. Like there's fundamental differences which I think cannot be overcome. Like say wanting children, for example. Some I don't want children. Some I do want children. Where they're pretty significning, and you're not probably going to be able to overcome them if fundamentally you are. That's the path you're on.
Is it an order of priorities? Because no one's going to be a perfect fit, are they? There's going to be different things.
No, we're all different. We're all unique beings.
So is it come down to your priorities of I can accept that but not that?
Yeah.
I'm willing. I can overlook that. I can work with that. But this is a must.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think there's. It's always. It's a negotiation. It's a compromise. It's somebody you're going to do battle with in a good way. Bring the best out in you.
What about if there's no one? Is there better? Is there like this is good, this is better though?
Well, actually, yeah. No, I actually do agree with that. I think finding the one, something perfectly matched to you, I don't think that's optimum. I don't think you want to strive for that because that means that they sort of match you, they fit your jigsaw piece exactly. It's what you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, too well.
And then you don't have to grow, you don't have to compromise, you don't have to negotiate. You just sort of like can cruise through, which actually ultimately doesn't make you a better person, doesn't make you a better, it doesn't build your resiliency, it doesn't help you to be able to negotiate in real life circumstances because you haven't had to do it at home. Suddenly you go home, it's like, hey, you go in the workplace, I want to do this. And they go, that's not how I do it. Yeah, but at home I do that. That's how it's done. So that's not how the world is. We all have our unique wants and needs.
So it's good for us to be with people, doing life in sort of that friction that you create with someone that's
iron sharpens iron. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Going to somebody, to me, a partner is somebody that lifts you up in a good way. That sharpens you. And you complement each other, not by fitting in perfectly, but actually not fitting perfectly.
So we should embrace the conflict that's there, that you might not sense initially though, Matt.
A lot of it comes
first getting to know each other, you often want to present the best side of yourself.
Yep. Or is it that you're more willing to overlook some of the things you see? It's like, that's nothing. But then, maybe on a day or two, it's nothing. But living with that person day in, day out, every day, 24/7, that might manifest into something that is not overcomable.
So your experience, Matt, let's get personal.
Let's get personal, mate.
Have you...
The capital P.
Where have you been in this journey of finding... You're married now to Emily?
Yes.
Just take me back to that initial Matt's coming of age and Matt's looking for a life partner. How was that?
Looking for a mate. Yeah, I got my club. Ooga. I find mate now. That's how I did it, actually.
Oh, was it?
Back in the day, before social media, that's how we did it.
Did that work?
It was caveman style.
Obviously.
It really worked. It worked wonders, actually, before I was about to be put in jail. No, it's a joke, not to be taken seriously.
Humour gets you a long way, I find.
we got to laugh. We got to be able to laugh at life. You got to be able to laugh with your life partner. I think that's a good little good segue there. However, your question was a bit of my personal history around the courting process. It was pretty typical, and I'm glad I'm actually not sort of doing that in this current age of everything connected at once. It's a bit old school. I met her at a wedding. Emily, my wife. And I was journaling at the time heavily, and I had a revelation, and I wrote it in this journal that I was going to meet my wife on this specific 19th of November.
What, you knew
The day.
ahead of time?
Yep. Yep.
How did you come to that conclusion?
I wrote the date, and I was like, what's with the date? I had no idea what the date was. I had the exact date. I wrote it in my diary.
How far ahead of this?
About 6 to 8 months, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And
So you wrote this date that you were going to meet your life partner.
Yep.
You were going to meet your future wife.
Yep.
On this date.
Yep. And then about 2-3 months later, I got an invitation in the mail to a wedding on that date.
Did you line them up at the time? You like, this is the date?
I did. I did. I was like, oh, really? And I was actually quite nervous. I was like, oh, wait, is this real? Like, it could have just been my mind playing trick. I mean, and I wrote it down. That's the crucial part there. I actually wrote the date down. It wasn't just like in my head. I was journaling, and I was, and I really.
Well, hang on a minute, Matt, because what you're describing here sounds a bit like destiny. Sounds like a bit like the opposite of what you said. This sounds like this is the one sort of stuff.
I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. You can have somebody that could be, A1, not the one, A1, and also have destiny bring that together. That those things aren't mutually exclusive. They can both exist in the same universe.
Okay, explain that.
How? As in, you could be your life and your life choices.
So you could have run into another woman at that wedding on that date.
And she could also have been,
A1.
Yeah, there was multiple single girls there.
It seems like a lot of things are lining up for you at this moment.
Oh, I saw Emily, and I was just like, wow. Wow. And then I spoke to her, and I was like, wow.
It's crazy. Crazy story.
Yeah.
And then what? Did that give you confidence to say, hey Emily, let's...
No, I was a bumbling fool.
Okay.
Yeah, because whenever, I wasn't the cool, calm and collected person you see before you. I was an adolescent, early 20s. I didn't know what I was doing.
So what did you say?
My frontal lobe hadn't probably developed yet.
No, that's the problem,
Early 20s, yeah.
So how did you approach Emily then?
I told her I consumed fish oil to keep my wits about me. And I told some really good jokes, like, I can't even remember now. That's how good they were.
And then what happened?
I failed miserably. And I remember getting giggled at from this group of girls because I was a bumbling fool. And I did nothing.
Did you give up?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did. I was like, well, I blew that chance. And I gave up. And I was like, well, that was just a nothing, whatever. So then 12 weeks passed. And we had the couple, the newly married couple, had so we were mutual friends. So Emily knew the bride, I knew the groom. And it was a housewarming for them. And Emily was at the housewarming. And this is several weeks later.
Yep.
And she was there. And I was like, oh. And I didn't have that. This is interesting because I was nervous because I knew that I was meeting this person, but those nerves actually wrecked me. I couldn't think straight. I was like, oh, because there's always weight on this moment. And I actually
you thought this is a rare opportunity.
Yes.
A second chance.
Oh, no. This is before the wedding.
Oh, right.
I was like, oh, man, this is the moment.
Okay.
And I bungled it because I was so nervous.
So you knew then?
Yeah. But I just, maybe I just stuffed it. Okay, there's, again, multiple opportunities. It's not just the one. There's A1. I can't miss that. That's okay. Move on. I don't like to dwell on things too much. And then I saw at the housewarming and I was not nervous. I just was myself because I was like, oh, well, I sort of stuffed that.
So all the pressure was off.
All the pressure was off that I put on myself, mind you. And I was sort of like, oh, actually, I just talked to her normally. And I got to know her a bit more.
Works well, doesn't it?
And I was like, you know what? Why not? So I gave her a call and I said, would you like to go for a coffee? She said, I don't drink coffee. Okay, how about ice cream? I like ice cream. And here we are.
All right. So you were able to get over I don't like coffee.
I'm still not over that, actually, to be honest. It's a point of contention since the beginning. Yeah.
Wow.
She's a tea drinker. And that's abhorrent.
Okay, well, have you, has life with Emily changed you, Matt?
Significantly.
In what ways?
Significantly. I'm definitely more tolerable. I mean, I was living with my brother. We grew up together, so we have a lot of similarities in living together. We know, each other's boundaries and compromises. So it's a bit easier. However, when two people come together from very different and diverse backgrounds, I always like the picture of when the married couple, where behind them you see, so the married couple are arguing, and behind the one side of the couple is the parents actually arguing in the other side of the other parents. And it's actually, that's what you're,
It's a good picture.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to work through a lot of that. We're only human. But we did, pre-marriage counselling. I think that was really helpful. We went through the fundamentals there, kids, future, what do you want to do? What are your life values, morals? A lot of those, there's fundamental stuff that is very hard to pivot from. They're established when you're young. Again, from your upbringing, your life, the stuff around you, your friends. So we sorted the basics out, which enabled us to, platform off into knowing that when we entered conflict, that it would be healthy, and that we're ultimately trying to be the best for both of us, be the best partner for us.
What would you say, Matt? I have a theory as you've been talking that maybe the one is the person that is there at that moment. It's the right time. The person you're with, that's the one. Work at it. Don't be dreaming of some better one over there. It's the person you're with, the opportunity you've got. That's the one to take, and try and work at that.
Absolutely. Love is an it's a verb. It's a doing word. It's a daily, always working towards striving to make sure you're loving the other person.
Does the object of our love become more lovely to us as we get better at loving? Does that make sense? That when we work at how to love somebody, it's not an easy thing, in the long-term perspective, but as we become better at loving somebody, sacrificially doing things for them, it's hard. That person to us becomes more, lovable. Is there an element of that, do you think?
Yeah. Especially, we've gone through some challenging times, and not just personally, but, externally. Things have happened in our lives, but that's actually brought us together more. And we share experience. Sharing experiences together actually just sort of bonded our love even more. And it also helps you see that the strength in the other person. It's like they also are going through this and getting through these tough times. And that just makes me love them more, just seeing that strength in them. And the resistance to be able to, and the resilience to be able to get through. Because life's not always rosy. There's always ups and downs.
No, you don't see it when you sign up for it, do you?
No, it's supposed to be perfect, and we're always happy. That's life. What are you talking about?
But you still take the plunge.
Yeah.
And Matt, if you allow me to, can we speak more broadly about, is there a one path for us in life? Just, is there a perfect career for each person, a sort of a right place that they should be living, the right community?
I always like the saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life because no one's hiring.
Yep.
It's often that the thing that you really, and that's not always the case, but you see all these people that are doing these things, I wanted to do this, they've had to work to get to that. You see the highlight reels. I think you ultimately should be striving for what you enjoy doing if you can. Work, in my perspective, shouldn't be such a cumbersome, burdensome thing that you regret going all the time. You don't want to show up for work. You don't want to.
But at times it is.
At times it will be. Just like any relationship, just like life in itself. It's just another facet of that. So I do think aiming at stuff that you're affiliated with, that you have an affection towards, that you like. I'm in IT. I do like IT. But I actually steered toward project management out of external circumstances, government cuts. There was an opportunity for project manager, so I was doing IT tech, and I went to IT project management. So I didn't sort of choose that. I did, but it was I had a fork in the road choice.
Yes.
And I found that I actually really like project management, but IT project management. So project management is not where I started.
Yes.
But the IT base is, if that makes sense. So I sort of aimed in the direction of IT, and then landed in project management. I discovered that I actually really like it, and I'm okay at it.
Often you don't know where you're going to enjoy more.
No, so that's
until you start exploring.
That's right.
Not all who wander are lost.
That's right.
There's a path. There's a journey of discovery.
Yes.
Let's drill down for a moment on that fork in the road.
Yeah.
How long should you persevere with something that doesn't seem to be working? So let's just go with, or it could be a relationship, could be a work situation, it's difficult. There's tension. It's a struggle. Often you work through it and it becomes better. At what point do you know this is never going to get better, and this is time that I need to change something? This is a fork in the road.
That's very subjective, very contextual.
Yeah,
It just depends, right? For one person, it could be one day, and it's like, yeah, you should know. Other people it could be a year. However, I guess the things I would say, do everything in your control to, if you think change is needed, then to implement that change. If it's a point where you've tried all the things, you've absolutely tried everything you can, and it's just not working, it's probably time to move on. But also looking at what stage you're in your life. Is that good for you and your family? It's not always like, well, I click that's best for me.
That's right.
So taking all those factors into consideration, but ultimately you will know what's best for you, and that does reflect on your family as well, for you and if you have a family, you and your family and others around you. So I would say it's very contextual, very
good,
depends on the situation. But if there's a point where you're like, I've tried everything I can and there's nothing else I can do, I would say, yeah, it's probably time to move on, and that's not a bad thing. It's just another opportunity somewhere else.
And I guess there's so much in that, because it's not just you. Like you say, it's everybody else that your actions will impact on. And you take that into consideration. But also, often it comes into it the perception of others, the felt pressure from others. You should be acting in a certain way, doing a certain thing. In the situation of love, your parents' perspective of the person you're choosing, your friend's perspective, all of that. Is that a factor, do you think? How much should we listen to those outside voices?
That's why I needed my motor to be growing fully from November, so I can stroke it to posit the answer more clearly. I'd say it'd be unwise to not listen to wisdom. Often our family members are intending the best for us, the best outcome for us. They're being altruistic. They're not trying to say, well, do this because I want you to do it. It's best for me. Often it's like, I feel like this is best for you, like they did until we were adults. They made decisions on our behalf. Now it changes obviously when you go into move into adulthood and maybe earlier, depending on the situation. However, I would listen to advice. Don't say you have to take it on, but definitely listen to it and reflect on it. At a minimum. Definitely, they don't know your situation. They don't know, what's going on. So take me, for example, if I was going to to change career, I'd go to my father or my mother and say, this is what I'm looking at doing. They go, I think this would be good or bad for reason X, Y, Z. I would definitely reflect on that and think about it. Doesn't mean that I would necessarily do that because they don't understand exactly my situation. They don't understand the nuances, the different things that could be unique in that situation. They're only seeing what I've told them. So definitely listen to advice. They've often, in the case with our parents, they've been there, done that. They've probably got something.
They've got some
experience.
More life experience, and they are people that tend to know us pretty well.
Yes. That's why I use that as an example. It doesn't have to be parents. It could be a mentor. It could be a friend. It could be anybody. But I just picked them as an example because they're.
So that's why arranged marriages could work. That your parents, if they love you, they want the best for you. They choose somebody. Another family that gels together. What's your perspective on arranged marriages?
It's very cultural. From what I don't know much about it. I watched a Netflix documentary. That was kind of eye-opening. I think it was arranged marriages in India. It's pretty good actually. What was interesting though is that it might, I guess from a Western sort of Australian perspective, it seems like what you're forcing people down a path, and I can definitely see that perspective. However, in India, it's not hasn't got that taboo like it does here. Now I don't want to speak for that culture because I don't know it, like I do Australian culture. However, in the show I watched, often they were sympathetic to that approach. A bunch of reasons, for what you said. Like the parents are sort of, it's not just there's the family to consider as well, like your actions and everybody else, just not just you. And it can work. It really actually can work. Maybe a situation where there's a lot of people, it's hard to meet people, you're busy with whatever the situation, that sort of doing that part of it can actually, but is it possible? I'll pose something to you, Mr. Anderson. is it possible that we are currently living in arranged marriages via AI? You know, if we're using
Wow.
apps that are
Yeah.
via algorithms and
Wow.
saying, well, you think you should go towards this person. Okay, yeah, right, thanks, app.
Yes.
Is that a form of arranged marriage?
Is a great question.
So I'm
Matt.
being guided to go towards that person.
I'm no expert in the online dating scene,
Neither am I.
I'd have to say, but you're
As a
right.
parallel.
You're right that
Yeah.
when there is sort of an algorithm guiding what is put in front of us,
Is that like modern arranged marriages?
that's a very interesting question, and
Maybe for another time to delve into that.
maybe a big topic on its own.
Yeah.
But I think there is something in that, you know, the arranged situation. You're making the most of what's in front of you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know the choice is taken away. So therefore, you know, I think in that culture, you don't expect to have a choice.
Yep.
This is what it is, and we make the most of it.
Well, actually, in a weird way, having limited choice is actually freeing.
Yeah.
And it actually is. We thrive on limitations and rules. Otherwise, I mean, you can't have games. You can't have structure without rules.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be just, you know, chaotic, nihilistic society. We need laws and regulations and rules and boundaries to actually operate within.
Do you think that's part of the problem that, you know, people can face, that there's too many options today, and that is just debilitating?
Analysis paralysis. It is absolutely a real thing. Psychologically, physically, yes, definitely.
So we might need to put restrictions on the choices that we're making. We say, well, I'm going to cut it down to this. This is the time frame. This is the place. This is like with your date, even. This is the place. You know, these are the possibilities.
Yeah.
Here we go. And you know, that's a clear. You know, this is the choice. Yes or no, and we go for it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that situation where I can't choose. There's what if question, and is there better, and you know, looking for that perfect one. You know, you're going to be stuck if that's your perspective. Looking for the one, unless someone finds the one for you, then you know you've got to make a choice.
Yeah.
So, choice, I think, is one of those things too that's powerful. I think the act of making a choice is part of maturing, and sometimes there's no one good choice or right choice. This is, you know, an experience of learning to make choices. It's part of being, you know, mature and an adult. So at some point, for those people that, you know, get arranged marriages, hopefully they've got an opportunity later in life or at some other situation to make the choice, you know, because you want to slowly let your kids make more and more choices.
Yeah. Yep.
It's part of it.
It's a life skill. Definitely.
So in closing, Matt, what is the big takeaway here for somebody who is looking for, you know, his situation in life, they're making a choice between this and that, looking for the one, you know, husband or wife, the one career. What's your advice?
That there is, I don't think there is the one, but definitely a one or multiple of ones.
A1.
There is multiple paths to finding the one. There is multiple ones. It really is just about your willingness to engage, to make decisions, to go for it. And that's my ultimate takeaway. Just go for it.
Every area in life, is that applicable? Is there only one truth?
Let me down a path there, Mr. Anderson.
No.
The one, Neo. Yes.
And that one truth, you know, there is truth, you would say?
Yeah, absolutely. There is the one truth. Otherwise, what is it? You can't have two truths. Absolute truth. It has to be an absolute. Something has to be right. I'll take that one step further. That I don't think there is. Often, I don't live in regret. If you keep regretting things, then your life will be a regret. So what I say is, you know, looking at something that probably wasn't the right decision, I'll say, but it was the best decision I could have made at the time.
Yeah.
And the information that I had at the time, that was the best decision I could have made. If I went back there, knowing what I knew then, I would make the same decision again.
Yeah,
so was that the best decision at the time? I don't think I could say that I've never made the best decision at that time. Was it always the right decision? No, definitely not. But it was the best decision I could have made at the time with the information that I had.
Well, thank you,
There
Matt,
you
for
go.
sharing your experiences, your wisdom.
Thank you.
And if people want to connect with you, they can get in touch with us and pass you your
Absolutely.
way.
If they want to see this again, mate.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, thanks, Matt, for that chat. Very interesting topic and lots more that we could probably talk about. Let us know in the comments below what you think. What else is there? What are your perspectives on this issue? Keen to hear from you. And you can also reach out and connect with us at haventogether.com. Hope you can join us again for the Figuring Life Out Together podcast, and make sure you check out some of the other great interviews I've had in the past.